There was a time when dreaming felt easy. When I was a child, I believed I could become almost anything. Some days, I wanted to be a pilot because I loved watching airplanes fly across the sky. Other days, I imagined becoming an architect after spending hours building houses with toy blocks. I even remember telling my parents that one day I would travel around the world, visit every continent, and experience different cultures. Back then, nothing seemed impossible. No one talked about paying bills, finding stable jobs, or making practical decisions. Life felt like a wide open road filled with endless possibilities. Looking back now, I realize that children have something many adults slowly lose. They believe in their dreams without questioning whether those dreams are realistic. As I grew older, however, life became more complicated. School became more challenging. University required more responsibility. Then came the search for a job, learning how to manage money, and adjusting to adult life. Little by little, I noticed something changing inside me. I stopped asking myself what I wanted to become. Instead, I started asking myself what seemed possible. At first, I didn't even realize it was happening. Like many people, I found a steady job and focused on building a stable life. There was nothing wrong with that. In fact, I was grateful to have work that allowed me to support myself. But somewhere along the way, the dreams that once excited me quietly moved into the background. One evening, after another long day at work, I was walking home when I noticed a small bookstore I had never entered before. Normally, I would have walked straight past it, thinking about tomorrow's meetings or everything waiting for me at the office. But for some reason, I stopped. I walked inside without any particular reason. The store wasn't very large, but it felt peaceful. Wooden shelves lined the walls, soft music played in the background, and the smell of books filled the air. As I wandered through the aisles, one title caught my attention. It was a book about people who had changed their lives by following dreams they had nearly abandoned. I bought it without thinking too much. That night, I stayed awake much later than usual. The stories inside the book weren't about famous celebrities or billionaires. They were about ordinary people. A teacher who started writing novels in her 40s, a mechanic who learned photography during weekends and eventually opened his own studio, a father who spent years practicing the piano after work because it had always been his childhood dream. None of them succeeded overnight. Some failed several times. Others waited years before seeing any results. But they all had one thing in common. They never completely gave up. As I finished reading the book, I asked myself a question I hadn't thought about in years. If money and fear weren't problems, what would I really want to do? The answer surprised me. I realized that I still love storytelling. When I was younger, I enjoyed writing short stories, creating characters, and imagining different adventures. I had stopped because life became busy, not because I stopped loving it. That realization stayed with me for days. At first, I thought about ignoring it. After all, I already had a full-time job. Where would I find the time? Would anyone even read what I wrote? What if I wasn't good enough anymore? The doubts came quickly. Sometimes I think fear is very clever. It rarely tells us to quit directly. Instead, it whispers small questions that slowly make us doubt ourselves. Maybe next year? You're too busy. Someone else could do it better. It's probably too late. The more I listened to those thoughts, the easier it became to postpone my dream again. But one Saturday morning, something changed. I was drinking coffee by my apartment window when I realized another year had almost passed. 12 months, 365 days, and I hadn't taken a single step towards something I truly cared about. That thought bothered me more than I expected. So I made myself a promise. I wouldn't quit my job. I wouldn't make any dramatic decisions. I would simply spend 30 minutes every evening writing. That was it. Just 30 minutes. It sounded almost too easy. The first few weeks weren't exciting. Some evenings I felt tired. Some days I wrote only a few paragraphs. Other days I deleted everything because I didn't like it. Progress felt painfully slow. But something interesting happened. The more consistently I wrote, the more I began looking forward to those quiet evenings. Writing stopped feeling like work. It became something I genuinely enjoyed. Months later, I looked back at everything I had written. I couldn't believe it. Those small 30-minute sessions had turned into hundreds of pages. If someone had asked me at the beginning whether I could write that much, I probably would have laughed. The experience taught me something I wish I had understood years earlier. Big dreams rarely begin with big actions. Most of them begin with small habits repeated consistently. We often imagine successful people making one huge decision that changes everything overnight. In reality, success usually grows quietly. One page, one lesson, one practice session, one small improvement at a time. Today, I'm still chasing my dreams. I'm not exactly where I want to be. I still have goals I haven't reached. There are days when I feel discouraged. There are moments when I wonder whether all the effort will be worth it. But I've stopped measuring success by how quickly I arrive. Instead, I measure it by whether I'm still moving forward. Because I've realized something important. The biggest tragedy isn't failing to achieve a dream. The biggest tragedy is convincing yourself that your dream isn't worth trying. If I could go back and speak to my younger self, I wouldn't promise him that every dream would come true. Instead, I would tell him something much simpler. Don't stop believing that your dreams matter. Life will become busy. People will tell you to be realistic. You'll face disappointments and setbacks. But if a dream continues to live inside your heart year after year, perhaps it's there for a reason. Maybe it isn't asking you to become famous. Maybe it isn't asking you to become rich. Maybe it's simply asking you to begin. And sometimes, beginning is the bravest step of all.